I want to invite you into thinking about something. And it's going to look differently for all of you. So the goal of this chapel is to increase your awareness of something and then walk away with a specific area of emphasis of what that could look like. So it's not a formula, it's not a checklist, it's a big idea, and it's at the same time specific but also very broad. So the idea is that you walk out of here with something to think about in a specific area of your life. And if we can do that, then it will have been a good experience. So I want to introduce you to a fellow named Joshua Brown, who is famous for two things, this being the first.
Here we are, stop and go traffic on 271, and geez, car's doing it all itself.
What I'm going to do with my hands down here. It takes all the stress out of it. Tell you what, it's like, yeah, get to your destination slightly slower, but hey, at least now you don't have to worry about anything. It's just let it go.
So Joshua Brown really loves Teslas, and he specifically loves the Autopilot software. And he became the real sort of poster boy for the Autopilot self-driving car technology. He posted videos, one of which got the attention of Elon Musk, the Tesla founder, which led Mr. Brown to be famous for this reason.
We are learning more about the driver killed while riding in his self-driving car. A witness now tells Inside Edition the driver may have been watching a Harry Potter movie at the time of the crash. But did that play a role in the crash? Jim Murray takes a closer look.
Was he really watching a Harry Potter movie? That's the question hanging over the horrific crash that killed Tesla owner Joshua Brown, the first fatality in a self-driving car.
There was a movie playing.
Witness Robert Van Cavalar says Brown's wrecked car ended up in his yard outside Gainesville, Florida.
I could hear it. The police officer told me it was a Harry Potter movie.
Cavalar showed Inside Edition the path the car took after it hit a tractor trailer carrying a cargo of blueberries.
When it came in between those two trees, went through the pole, came right here. You can see the tire tracks right here.
Cops say they found a portable DVD player like this one in Joshua Brown's Tesla.
Tesla says it's not possible to watch a movie on the vehicle's touchscreen display, but we found a video that appears to show it can be done by jerry-rigging the electronics.
In the online video, a hacker claims she was able to override the car's systems and play Terminator 2 on its display.
It is still your responsibility to keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road, not to take your hands off the wheel and to look elsewhere.
Brown loved his Tesla. In one posting on social media, he showed his car avoiding a near miss with a truck. Tesla's founder, billionaire Elon Musk, tweeted a link to the video, prompting Brown to exclaim, "Elon Musk noticed my video. I'm in seventh heaven."
I'm a techie, I love technology, but I think you almost have you're unsure a little bit about whether you really want to let a vehicle of 5,000 pounds drive you around.
Tesla told us in a statement that they confirmed there was, quote, not a movie playing on the infotainment screen of the Tesla involved in the accident. By the way, it's also been revealed that Joshua Brown had 8 speeding tickets in 6 years.
And that's what you end on. And I hate the word infotainment, by the way. But anyway, so a couple of problems with Autopilot here in a technological sense. The first one is we just stop paying attention. All right? If the technology is taking care of it, then I'm free to do other things. Problem is you miss key details. So Joshua Brown, here's how he was killed. The Autopilot technology couldn't differentiate between natural sunlight and the reflection of the sunlight off of the white side of the paneled truck that decapitated him. That's what, I don't know if you saw the wreckage of the car, there was no top, right? He just went right through it because the car couldn't tell the difference. Now, had he been driving, can you tell the difference between a truck and sunlight? Every time. But because he had placed his trust in technology and was able to catch up on his Potter watching apparently, he's no longer with us. So a totally preventable mistake because of misplaced trust in technology. And the whole time he thought, all is well. I'm doing great. And for the most part, he was. But when he needed to be paying attention, he wasn't. So this idea of paying attention is a key idea. Now, I want to give you a quote here, and I think this is a good quote to really ponder. These are two fellas up here. This is Father John Culkin, who is a professor at Fordham University, and this is a guy named Marshall McLuhan, whose famous quote was, "The medium is the message." Culkin is the one who said this: "We become what we behold. We shape our tools, and then our tools shape us." So think about Joshua Brown. So he's in a Tesla which has autopilot, and he completely released all driving responsibilities and obligations to the technology, which for the most part worked out just fine. However, for the most part, when we're talking about life and death, that's a bad phrase. And so again, he wasn't paying attention, he missed key details, but the idea is the tool is going to take care of me. Well, the tool, in this case Autopilot, was created by who? People. Do people make perfect things? Never. So there's always going to be a flaw in the system somewhere. Technology is great, but it's not the answer to everything. But again, this idea of autopilot, we kind of turn our brains off. And this idea of we become what we behold. What we behold is what we keep in view, what we're paying the most attention to. And so this has a lot of implications for our lives, and particularly for you right now who are in a part of a lot of different environments as we go through. So I'm going to give you some examples of how technology shapes the way we see the world, the way we see ourselves, and the way we interact with that world. This is an article that came out this summer that was talking about the struggle that people have with other people's vacation photos. Now, before I begin, I've got a few examples here. All of these articles talk about Facebook, all right? Realize that adults have taken over Facebook. Let's just use Facebook as a euphemism for whatever social media you like. So if you're big into Instagram, use that. If you're big into Snapchat, use that. Whatever it is, so don't get hung up. I don't even use Facebook. All right, that's fine. But that's not really the idea. It's the idea of social technology. So this is a doctor who treats clients who struggle with things like this. So here's the doctor talking about one of her clients. She says, "I have a client who really wants likes. So he posts lots of photos. When people don't respond to them, he feels very alone. So he posts more. It's a cycle, like any interpersonal cycle, in which we're doing something that people hate, but we're trying to do it to make people like us. With that type of client, I try to find out the motivation for what their motivation for posting is. What are the feelings around it? What is he looking for? Then I try to help him find other outlets." So this is an adult male who posts pictures on Facebook of his vacations and then waits to see how many likes he gets. And if he doesn't get enough, put more on there. So let's do more of what's already not working. And it's gotten to the point where he's actually seeking medical help, right? It continues. Here's Facebook depression. It says, there can also be more subtle reasons for experiencing Facebook depression. Going online and checking on the status of our various Facebook friends, many of whom we have never met in real life, often forces us to deal with people who are either A, more successful than we are, or B, more attractive than we are. Whether or not this is actually the case, Facebook users may tend to regard themselves as competing with their various Facebook friends and can often feel inadequate as a result. Status updates in which friends announce significant achievements or display how successful they are more likely to attract attention. Facebook users are also more likely to pay attention to profiles that are already popular, including ones that have a large number of Facebook friends, likes, or which attract numerous comments. Other factors, such as physical attractiveness, may also make some profiles more popular than others, especially if the user is an attractive female. And then, fear of missing out, or FOMO. So it says, missing out, but on what? On what other people are doing. They're having exciting experiences that you're not. They attended the hottest concert in town, and you didn't. Their kids have been accepted into Ivy League schools, and yours weren't. And the beat goes on and on and on. FOMO is especially strong for those who are hooked on social media. Why? Because they're constantly aware of what others are doing. Visit Facebook and you'll view your friends' faces with ecstatic smiles. Read their posts and you'll find gushing descriptions of their awesome adventures. Person after person is having the time of their lives, and you, not so much. Teens with FOMO are highly anxious that everyone's chatting about a Facebook post and they were the last to know. Or everyone is hanging out at a party house and they were excluded. Or everyone received 100 likes on their posts, but you only received a paltry 22. On social media, everyone's flaunting what they're doing, with whom they're doing it with, and posts are loaded with exclamation marks. With such pressure, it's no surprise that teens are checking their phone every 2 minutes to make sure they're not missing out on anything important. So we shape our tools, and then our tools shape us. See, a lot of these things are new. So a lot of the social media and technology, it's very new, and it moves very fast, faster than what we can keep up with in terms of, is this healthy, is this good, is this right, is this necessary? And that's one of the big things that creates a sense of urgency. It all feels necessary. And so there's this real fear of missing out. Now, for those of you who went to Bellevue Christian in junior high, do you recall State Trip? And one of the big rules on State Trip, there's always two fears that we administrators deal with State Trip. One is, what if I don't like the people in my group? And two, when you say we can't have our phones, what do you mean? Remember that? And there's a lot of anxiety, and then lots of plans get hatched. I'm going to smuggle my phone. And then, most of the time it doesn't happen. And usually what happens is State Trip is great, people come back, and these are my best friends. And then I ask her, how did you feel about not having your phone? And the universal answer I get is, it was actually kind of nice. Like, it was okay. It was kind of freeing. But now, if we're honest, part of why that was the case is because they knew all of their 8th grade friends at BCS didn't have their phones. Right? Because if we just said, well, some groups get them and some groups don't. Oh, the humanity, all right? You have 28 new voicemails. I mean, that's what would be on my desk, all right, the whole time. Here's one on body image from a recent issue of Relevant magazine. So this idea of how we see ourselves, it's learned behavior. Now you ask a 3-year-old, what do you think of your body? They're going to look like, just give me a truck, you weirdo, right? They don't care. Like, I just want to play. They're not concerned about, they're wearing their dinner on their shirt, for crying out loud. They don't care. So something happens where we become hyper aware of ourselves. So check this out. It says, in a culture obsessed with sex, youth, and the idea of a perfect body, perhaps it's unsurprising that many of us are unsatisfied with the bodies we currently have. Listen to this, no matter what they're like. So we kind of assume that, there are some people that don't like their body and then some people that just live the dream. Nobody's living the dream. On top of personal dissatisfaction, most of us are constantly comparing ourselves to others on social media. Selfies and perfectly filtered photos fill our feeds, and now research supports what most of us understand inherently. The more time we spend on social media, the worse we feel about ourselves. Now that's a body image example. I would say it's bigger than that. We become keenly aware of what we're not, of what we don't have, and it all feels urgent. We shape our tools, and then our tools shape us. Right? This is a fellow named Timothy Wilson, and he is a researcher and professor at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. And in his big field of study has been something he calls the adaptive unconscious, which is essentially this. Very little, he says 5%, very little of what you actually do, you're actually thinking about. 95% of it. You think iceberg here. Tip of the iceberg, that's what you're actually thinking about. The rest of the iceberg, big enough to sink a ship, you're not thinking about it, but it is acting on you. So this is where you start to ask your questions. So you go, when you have a thought, do you ever ask, why do I think that? Where did I learn that? Why do I do what I do? And it's really interesting when you're in a position where you're trying to teach somebody else something. Like, how many of you have your driver's license? Okay? How fun was it having one of your parents or both your parents teach you how to drive? Right? Yeah, because here's what happens. As a driver, and I've been driving for a long time, most of my driving I don't really think about. What I do think about is how fast I'm going, what other drivers are doing, so I can be a defensive driver. And I have a good driving record. All right? But teaching somebody how to drive, because so much of what it is, and you ever think about this, those of you who drive, you realize you start thinking about something, and maybe you left school, and next thing you know, you're home. You're like, well, what just happened? Right? But you stopped at every red light. You stopped at every stop sign. You apparently drove legally because you didn't get invited to come to traffic court by Johnny Law. Right? I mean, things went okay. That's adaptive unconscious. I just drive. This is what we do. Think about how many things in your life you just do unconsciously. The way you react to things, what you laugh at, what you respond to, how you respond to it. It's all working all the time. Just how much of it are we aware of? All right. This can even take place in the spiritual realm. So here's a tongue-in-cheek video that I think is actually pretty accurate in a lot of ways.
Are you a Christian girl that loves taking photos of her devotions? Do you spend hours framing the perfect picture without the payoff of people noticing how spiritual you are on the internet? Introducing Christian Girl Instagram. 101 tips and tricks to get more likes on your devotional photos. Hi, I'm John Christ with Christian Girl Instagram. Do you struggle to get likes on those devotional Instagram photos? Hashtag the struggle is real. From the best-selling author of Shameless Workout Selfies comes Christian Girl Instagram.
I would always get totes stressed out trying to decide which Bible verse to show. Not anymore.
Okay, you're always going to want to stay away from common verses like Jeremiah 29:11 or John 3:16. No matter what verse you choose, you always want to make sure you highlight multiple verses with multiple colors. Because after all, what's the point of having devotions if no one knows about it?
I used to spend 5 minutes reading the Bible, and then like 30 minutes trying to figure out a hashtag. Then I found Christian Girl Instagram.
My book includes over 1,000 hashtag suggestions like coffee with Colossians, bliss, serenity, much needed, and of course, hashtag blessed. Buy Christian Girl Instagram today and we'll include our 31-piece package of options to put in the background of your photo. Things like a candle, a Precious Moments doll, a subscription to Relevant Magazine, kale chips, and of course, a coffee cup with the Bible verse on it.
Thanks to inspiration from Christian Girl Instagram, I took down my Marilyn Monroe poster and replaced it with footprints in the sand.
So clear off what's really on your desk and replace it with new products from Christian Girl Instagram. Christian Girl Instagram now includes bonus tips like if you're going to include your hand in the photo, always wear a purity ring. And if you're going to include additional reading material in the background of your photo, always avoid extremes. We don't want people to think you're too prosperity driven by maybe having some Joel Osteen, yet we don't want people to worry about your theology by having some Rob Bell or Mark Driscoll, okay? You want to stay right in the middle, maybe some Joyce Meyer, some Beth Moore would be perfect. And remember, anything leather-bound is really going to pop with that Valencia Instagram filter.
Christian Girl Instagram is great. My devotions are now constantly being interrupted by people liking my post.
Buy now, and I'll also include my additional book, Announcing Your Social Media Fast. Tips and tricks for effectively telling people you're fasting while ignoring all of Jesus' teachings about telling people you're fasting. Christian Girl Instagram can be yours today. This book and so much more available to you, all for the cost of less than a pair of yoga pants.
I don't always do devotions, but when I do, I Instagram it.
We're so confident in our product that if you're not totally satisfied with Christian Girl Instagram, we'll send you this free autographed Tim Tebow poster.
For those of you on Instagram, how spot on was that? Like, we could go on Instagram right now and find 100 pictures quickly of people who did their devotions exactly like he just described. Now, here's the thing. At what point did the thought enter our mind where we go, I'm spending time with God, I need to take a picture of this, a carefully constructed picture, and then I need to tell people about it? We shape our tools, and then our tools shape us. And it's very normal. Right? It's very normal. So this requires a level of thought and intentionality. Just because I can doesn't mean that I should. Just because I'm able, or just because it might be successful, doesn't mean that I ought to. But see, if we turn off our brains and just go with the cultural flow, if we go on autopilot, so to speak, this is what happens. All right? And putting devotional pictures on Instagram is not crime of the century. But it's an example of how we let technology and how we let social norms affect us, and most of the time, we're not even conscious of it. We're in that 95%. This is not a new thing. I know you guys read Deuteronomy all the time, so bear with me because we're going to read chapter 8 together. And I'll have words on the screen, but here's the setting. Here's what's going on in Deuteronomy 8. The Israelites are about to enter the promised land. They have been rescued from slavery. They went through 40 years in the wilderness. And now they're on the precipice of the promised land, of glory. And so right before they go in, God has some thoughts for them. And even though this is thousands of years old, I think it's as relevant today as it was then. So here's Deuteronomy 8. It says, "The whole commandment that I give you today, you shall be careful to do, that you may live and multiply, and go and possess the land that the Lord swore to give to your fathers. And you shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. And he humbled you and let you hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that every man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothing did not wear out on you, and your foot did not swell these 40 years. Know then in your heart, as a man disciplines his son, the Lord your God disciplines you. So you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God by walking in his ways and by fearing him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and springs, flowing out in the valleys and the hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, a land in which you will eat bread without scarcity, in which you will lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you can dig copper. And you shall eat and be full, and you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land he has given you." Now, pause for a second. What is God saying? You are my people. I am bringing you into a land unlike you have ever seen, and I want you to enjoy it. I'm not giving it to you and say, you're here, but don't mess with anything. No. It's going to provide for you. You're going to enjoy it. The food's going to taste great. You will never lack it. It's beautiful. Enjoy it. A feast for the eyes. This is really good stuff. And as your father, it is my joy to give this to you. That's what he's saying. But now watch how things turn. Here come the instructions. Okay. Take care lest you forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments and his rules and his statutes, which I command you today, lest when you have eaten and are full, and have built good houses and live in them, and when your herds and flocks multiply, and your silver and gold is multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, then your heart be lifted up, and you forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, who led you through the great and terrifying wilderness with its fiery serpents and scorpions and thirsty ground where there was no water, who brought you water out of the flinty rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna that your fathers did not know, and that he might humble you and test you to do you good in the end. Beware lest you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your fathers as it is this day. And if you forget the Lord your God and go after other gods and serve them and worship them, I solemnly warn you today that you shall surely perish. Like the nations that the Lord makes to perish before you, so shall you perish because you would not obey the voice of the Lord your God. Verse 19, look at what it says. And if you forget the Lord your God and go after other gods and serve them and worship them. In other words, if you completely forget all that happened coming out of Egypt, all the ways that I've provided for you. And the Israelites had memory problems. They were easily disgruntled. He said, when that happens and you go after these gods and serve them and what? Worship them. We are worshipers. We get excited about things and we go all in. The 12s. I just paid a bunch of money for U2 tickets earlier this week. And I'm not going to go and sit there with my hands in my pockets. Right? That's an exciting thing. Star Wars, Rogue One, $500 million first month it was out. What do people worship with? Their time and their money. We are worshipers. We care about things. So God's saying, look, you're going to go into this land and it's great and I want you to enjoy it, but remember where you came from. Keep the main thing the main thing. Keep grounded, because if you don't, you will quickly do the following things. Here's what happens. If you're not careful, look at all these commands. Be careful. Remember, keep the commandments. Take care. All of these things. Why? Because when we go on autopilot, first thing we do every single time is forget God. Think about Adam and Eve. There are just two of them. They're in the garden. They're with God. Everything is as it should be. They have one instruction. Don't eat the fruit from one tree. What changed their mind? Right? Talking snake. And what did he get them to do? Forget God and think about themselves. Why shouldn't you have it all? And Adam and Eve went, talking snake makes a good point. I'm paraphrasing. And they sinned, they hid from God, discovered nudity in a bad way, and the rest has been a mess. Because what was the first thing they did? They forgot God. Second thing that happens, all right, is they adapt to the culture. We adapt to the culture around us without thinking us. Seniors, you're going to be somewhere else other than here next year. Maybe that's college, maybe that's military, maybe that's work, maybe that's, who knows, a gap year. But you're going to be somewhere else, which means all that you have known, all that you are used to, all of those unconscious adaptations, they're going to be different. And you're going to go to school, and you're going to be a freshman, or you're going to be the new kid on the block. And it's all new and different, and you're going to want to fit in. You know what I did when I was in college? First quarter, I ate a lot of salads. Now I go to the salad bar because I'm 46 and can't eat like I used to. But then I was 18, and I didn't like salads. I'm like, no animal died for this. It's not real food, okay? But the salad bar served a purpose. It allowed me to scope out where I was going to sit because it was situated in such a place so you could always tell how quickly I could find a place to sit by the size of my salad. The bigger the salad, the longer it took me to find a place to sit. Because I didn't want to be the schleppy freshman who'd be like, is anybody sitting here? Oh, okay, good, right? And then I'd walk somewhere else with my pride hurt. I wanted to like zone right in, what's up, and sit down. Now how stupid is that? But this is what happens. We want to fit in. We want to be a part of something. And we will go to great lengths, including eating a lot of really poorly constructed salads, to fit in and to try to seem normal. So seniors, you have to understand you're at a real point of vulnerability. You're going into a new situation, and the first temptation you're going to have is to forget God and take care of yourself. And it happens quickly. And we play a role. I mean, what's the first thing juniors do the first day seniors are gone? Right, we go bananas for the senior parking lot. Got to get that spot. It's blacktop with white paint. Like, take a breath. But like somehow, like, we're all good. Like, it's a parking lot, man. And then you're going to be a senior, and then you graduate, and we're going to give it to somebody else. We're not going to make a shrine and name it after you and, respect the spot. No, okay? We move on. And then again, we think all is well. We just tend to roll with stuff. So we draw our cues from the culture, and we go, hey, I may not make the rules, but I understand them, and they're working for me. I mean, that tends to be how we think. It tends to be how we roll. So here's what I'm asking you to do. I want you to become increasingly aware of your immersions. Here's what I mean. The things which you behold, the things at which you spend a lot of time on. So I grew up, as many of you know, I grew up in athletic culture. I was a jock from the time I was 5 till I was 23. Sports culture is very unique. Sports culture, especially for men, is very alpha, it's very dominant, being on top, winning, and highly competitive. In the sports world, those are good things. Outside of the sports world, not as good. And look at a lot of the top professional athletes. One of the things that many of them have in common is that they don't have a lot of friends. They have a lot of broken relationships. Because they just see the world through the lens of competition, winning, and losing. And what's at the heart of all relationships? Humility, service, putting others first. But we become, when you practice, when I was in college, I practiced 20, 25 hours a week. That is immersed. And it wasn't like I was just thinking about it at practice either. I was thinking about it all the time. And then it becomes part of your identity. If I had a nickel for every time I was asked how much I bench press, I'd be a rich man. Because that becomes part of your identity. Big bench, big stud, sweet. I don't make the rules, I just enjoy them, right? But you don't consciously make that decision, it just kind of happens. But what do we know? If we're not paying attention, boy, we just forget God and we slip right into a cultural mainstream and we think we're doing okay. Right? When in fact, actually, our hearts are sick. So here's an action step I'd like you to do. I'd like you to pick one of these 5 categories, and for the next week, just become aware. Ask questions like environments, and I don't mean environments like rain and clouds and stuff. I'm talking about the context in which you find yourself. And those could be classes, those could be sports teams, any kind of a group, things that you're involved with. Because all of those things have expectations of you. All of those things have certain rules to guide. And they have means of being a member in good standing or a member in poor standing. So think about the environments that you are spending time with, because we know this. It's not, is it impacting you? It's, how is it impacting you? And that may be positive, it may be negative. Relationships, think about your friendships. What do we care the most about in life? Frankly, friends. So how are your friends influencing you? Scripture's real clear. You hang with wise people, you grow wise. You hang with dopes, you're in trouble. Again, I'm paraphrasing. But you see that over and over again. We become like our friends. And friends and environments have a lot to do with each other. But then think about your technology. Okay? Think about your technology. Technology is not bad, it's not going away. But you have to ask yourself a question. We tend to think, I just use my phone. Ask yourself, how does your phone use you? How does it impact you? And you know what I mean. Your phone's in your pocket and it vibrates. What's your first thought? Look at it. Most people will go, I'll wait. Right? I mean, one of the struggles I have as junior high guy, we don't want kids having phones in the B hall. All right? We also want kids to be on time for class. Well, how do kids tell time? Right? So they're walking down, they're looking at what time it is, and now I'm like, well, put your phone, okay, I get it. Now we do have a clock in the B hall, but it has hands, so nobody can read it, okay? We may have to get a digital reader in the B hall. Note to self for next year. All right, line item budget. Think about your habits. Why do you do what you do? You ever think about that? Why do I do this? Why do I do this a lot? They say it takes about a month to build a new habit. But think about a lot of your habits. Why do I do this? And I'm a creature of habit. I like routine and rhythm. That's partly why, and there are many reasons, but why I'm not on Instagram. I would have nothing new to post. Here's me watching soccer. Awesome. Here's me reading a book. That's a lot of my life right there. So there's not a whole lot, like 2 pictures and I have nailed it. Okay? But think about, why do I do what I do? And how conscious of this am I? And then finally, think about your desires. Why do I want what I want? And what do I think is going to happen if I get what I want? And we need to be a people who are aspirational. That's a good thing. But think about, why do I desire this? Why do I desire this for myself? Why do I desire that for